want to do a podcast about films.
I'm not stopping you.
No, with you, you fool.
Oh, so you mean you want us to do a podcast about films?
Yes.
Well, why didn't you say that?
I did. I am.
Well, you can't say films. You need to say movies. It's a more broadly recognised term.
Yeah, don't worry about that now. Are you interested?
Well, we can't just talk about films we like. That would be boring.
Okay, then what about films we don't like?
That sounds even more boring.
Okay, how about this? Films we disagree on.
Ah, intriguing. So one of us likes it, the other one doesn't, and we discuss our opinions on the film?
I think you mean movie.
Yeah, don't worry about that now.
But yeah, that's the gist of it.
All right, I'm in.
Great.
Could still be boring, though.
You're boring.
I don't see how that's relevant.
Should we do one now? Hello and welcome to Movie the Needle podcast, where two complete amateurs haphazardly dissect a film that one of us likes and one, well, not so much. My name's Simon and I'm joined by my good friend Carl. We'll be explaining our opposing viewpoints and seeing whether we can movie the needle for one another. This week we are discussing the 2007 Coen Brothers American neo-western crime thriller. It's based on Cormac McCarthy's 2005 novel No Country for Old Men. Hello Carl, how are you doing?
Simon. I'm good, thanks, mate. How about you?
I am very good, yes. Good to have you in our cube of...
Our cube.
not sure what this is a cube of exactly. I was going to say it's an echo chamber with there being nothing on the walls, but that is somewhat ironic, seeing as we're definitely not going to be reflecting each other's views on this one, are we? So,
Ooh, I see what you did there.
I don't just crack this out with no planning whatsoever.
What's that then? Would you like to have a little chat about a bit of literary chat?
A literary chat?
Yeah, no, I don't mean that, do I? Linguistics chat.
Linguistics chat,
yeah.
Sure. I know this is close to your heart.
Yeah. So I was composing an email today, and I needed to assume something or presume something, and I don't know the difference, and I use them interchangeably.
Sure.
Right, so I thought, I'm going to find out the difference. Today is that day. Do you know the difference?
No, I would be making it up if I thought I did. But
Everybody does. So presume is when you have evidence to strongly suggest something. So presume would be a very informed. It would be an informed assumption, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas an assumption, you're just having a guess. I think this might happen. I've not really got a lot to base it on. I'm just assuming, right?
Yep.
So you're informed, you're presuming. You're not so well informed, you're assuming. Okay. I used presume today, which
accurately.
is relevant. Yeah, of course, accurately. When I was armed with that information. Anyway, that got me thinking on why presumptuous is such a loaded term. You know, when somebody goes,
should be assumptuous.
It should be assumptuous, but if you said assumptuous to someone, they would put you in jail or something.
Is assumptuous a word?
Assumptuous is a word. Nobody uses it.
Stop being so assumptuous.
Can you imagine? You mean like some sort of linguistic pervert?
I'm definitely going to use it.
Yeah.
Just to see, you mean presumptuous? No, I don't actually. You know why I know this? Because I've got a right pedant that I do a podcast with.
Yeah, exactly. When somebody next says to you, they were a bit presumptuous, weren't they? They were like, and? That's good. Except it isn't, because if you look at the definition for presumptuous, it does have that loaded connotation. Which
is this
like,
the old English language?
Well,
is it just adapted to fit an incorrect definition?
Just assimilated the... Yeah, I don't know. So there you go. So presume versus assume, now you know. And presumptuous shouldn't be bad, but is. And you could start the good fight by using assumptuous.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on Dictionary Corner next week.
Yeah, there you go. What did you do with your day?
Nothing quite so exciting as that, obviously. And obviously, if anyone else is listening, I was working feverishly at my paid job. Thank you. Yes. Right.
Yes.
Would you like to talk about a movie?
Yes.
Are you ready to talk about said movie now? Because we are talking about No Country for Old Men today.
Yeah.
I just, I should probably say as well, there will be spoilers in this podcast for this film, but considering it was released...
Simon, no one's going to be listening to this.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. That is true. If you do happen to stumble across this and haven't already switched off, there will be spoilers, but also it was released like 17 years ago, so if you've not seen it already...
Yeah, it's on you at this point.
Stop listening.
Yeah, stop listening.
Go watch the film. Also, if you haven't watched the film and you are listening, just keep listening. It's fine. There's not that many spoilers.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, getting back to it. Coen Brothers, No Country for Old Men, 2007. 2008 Oscar winner, Best Picture.
Yeah, it was up against There Will Be Blood, I think. It came out
Inextricably linked, those two films, in my mind.
Inextricably linked during filming as well.
Which is exactly, and they even had to interrupt filming because the smoke coming up from the set of There Will Be Blood interfering with old men.
You know that little sort of quiz we proposed that we might do?
Sure.
Oh, no, well, good. If you don't remember. However, it does appear that we might have read the same Wikipedia entry, so...
Oh, no, I haven't read Wikipedia. My source of information is equally liable to be incorrect.
Reddit?
No.
I went to
Good old
Reddit
IMDb.
too. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Oscar winner.
Which obviously means it's a brilliant film, right? What did it win? It won Best Picture.
It won over There Will Be Blood.
It did.
Oh, my word.
It won Best Director. It won Best Supporting Actor.
For who?
Javier Bardem.
Bardem.
And it also won a fourth one, which I can't remember. Oh, Best Adapted Screenplay.
No, hang on a minute.
Adapted Screenplay. That's what.
Right. Well, I've got some thoughts on that. Best Supporting Actor means it beat out Paul Dano.
Yeah.
That is a scandal.
Assume I didn't check if Paul Dano was nominated.
Can you imagine if he wasn't nominated?
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to the cast. But in case you haven't realised who is pro this film and who is slightly more against this film, I really like this film. I would be interested to know what you think of There Will Be Blood, because as I said, they are inextricably linked in my mind. And I don't know if that's just because I watched it at the same time or because of the fact that they were both going through the whole Oscar race thing together. But I also seem to have them linked in my mind as the two similarly kind of, I don't know, not divisive films, but two films that you get two schools of thought on them that like, oh no, a bit slow, a bit boring, don't like it. Which I don't share the view for either of those things. But Carl, enough of what I think, because I've rambled on for long enough. What don't you like?
Brits Abroad.
I meant specifically about this film, but it's good to know, or movie, I should say.
All right, okay. Not to be too basic bitch about it, but I do think it's a boring film. I've watched it 3 times now, and it's interesting that you make the link with There Will Be Blood, because that is not a link I would have made. So we'll talk about that later. Watched it 3 times now. Twice of those are in the last year. Now, I could be thick, right? Let's not rule that out. And we'll get into that a bit later. But I still don't fully understand the plot. All right, so I'll be asking you some questions as we go on.
This could very much reveal that I don't understand the plot as well.
Right.
I just haven't thought about it quite as much as you.
And the other thing is, I didn't get it was supposed to be allegorical until I read up on it afterwards.
Over to Dictionary Corner.
Well, so
allegorical.
An allegory, right? So it's not really about the thing that it's showing. They're using that as a vehicle for talking about another message or concept or whatever.
You've lost me already. This is not how I consume films.
Right. Okay. Well, this is still going to be interesting. So I don't like this film. I wasn't particularly looking forward to rewatching it. I rewatched it. I felt the same thing I'd felt before going into the rewatch. And then I was a bit like, how are we going to fill the time talking about this? I did a bit of reading on it afterwards and found all this stuff that supposedly I missed. I thought it was going to be quite a good one to talk about because there's that sort of stuff going on. And even though you've said you didn't get that either, that's not how you consume it, I'm still really interested to then, quite frankly, to go, what the fuck did you see? Because I just don't think that there's enough on screen to carry off an engaging film unless it is allegorical, which didn't land for me either. But yeah, there you go. Basic bitch take. Too long, don't read. I think it's boring.
Yeah, see, the boring thing is just what shocks me, because it's the complete opposite feeling that I had. So similarly, I've watched this, I guess it would be the second or third time. I definitely saw it in the cinema, and I've seen it again recently for the purposes of talking about it today.
When did you saw it at the cinema?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in 2007 it would have been. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember liking it when I saw it in the cinema, but it had been that long since I've seen it that, apart from the broad themes and the, iconography of the characters, which we'll get to, I didn't really remember too much about what it was about so much. But I was enthralled throughout. And, well, I say throughout. So, and I'll come back to this, but it's 3/4 of it in particular. I was just could not look away, was just well involved with it, following it, was just well into it.
So you rewatched this when?
Recently. Last week.
Last week, yeah. And when was the last time you'd watched it before then?
I guess it might have been 2007. I can't remember if I'd seen it since.
All right. Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that it was boring, I struggled to understand how you could say it was boring, because I was from, we'll get into to plot details here a little bit, but from, the slow reveal of the initial discovery, and then moving on to what essentially becomes a chase film for a fair chunk of it, from the Josh Brolin character's perspective anyway. And then interspersed with that, you've got the gnarly old sheriff detectiving a little bit.
That's what they say. Yeah.
Detectiving's a word. Look it up. I think I was just, there was no point I could say like, well, this is dull. For me.
Well, like you say, we'll cover that off when we get into the plot, I think. And I can't state enough that it might be me. That's the problem here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've read similar reviews of people just going like, just overrated rubbish, boring, slow, not about anything, those sort of things. But I can't even, as you are aware, Carl, I see both sides of things to a fault. So this is one of those rare instances where I really do struggle to see it. Apart from the last quarter of the film, which I can understand why some people would have issues with it.
Yeah, again, that's super interesting, because when I go reading reviews to see, well, what am I missing? Everyone, nearly to a man, is citing, or woman, or she, is citing the arc of Tommy Lee Jones's character. What's the name?
Sheriff
Bell. Yeah, Bell, isn't it? They're citing his arc as the one that's delivering the meaning of the movie. And you're now saying, well, I didn't think it was boring, except for that last bit, which everybody else thinks is the meaning of the movie. Anyway, let's park that for the plot discussion, I suppose.
So let's talk about the cast, which we've already touched on a little bit.
Oh, there's going to be lots of that, though, isn't there?
There is. We'll go back and forward, but
just slapdash making our way through.
Yeah, I'd like to say it'll get better as we go on, but yeah.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, unlikely. it's the charm that you
Yeah.
Who wants
Like
professionalism?
Like a rickety old car.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
But she gets you from A to B, doesn't she?
Precisely, or he. So the cast. So do you want to start with the cast? Do you want me to go with the cast?
Well, I'll go with the cast because I've got a really basic take on this as well.
Go.
Bardem is fantastic. He doesn't have loads to deliver as that character, but he is supremely menacing. He does a great job with it. Besides that, I've no real strong opinions on the cast at all because I just don't think there's much for them to get their teeth into, and I do think I lay that more of the blame of the film rather than the actors. Although I will say, of Tommy Lee Jones, I've seen him do the same performance in about 5 films. I really feel like he's phoning it in. He doesn't work for me, and I'm not a massive Josh Brolin fan either. He's perfectly serviceable, but I think when you're looking at a film and you're going, 2 of the 3 lead roles in this film, I think 2 of them are pretty unremarkable actors, and the supporting cast is a bit more hit and miss. But yeah, Bardem's brilliant. I'm not so hot on the rest, to be honest.
So I do take your point about Tommy Lee Jones is doing a little bit of a Tommy Lee Jones type of character. I think he does that very well, and it's very well suited to this in particular. And actually, my first thought when I was taking notes after having watched this, I distinctly wrote Tommy Lee Jones snubbed for Oscars, right? Now, those of you
Paul Dano, I repeat my Paul Dano indignation.
Oh, no. So, in theory, right, he is. I don't know if he'd be considered a lead actor for this or a supporting actor. It's difficult to.
Who got the
say
nom
for
best actor for actor?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Did he? Okay.
Not for this film.
No. Okay, right. Yeah.
Which is why when I said TommyLee Jones snubbed, not so much. He got nominated for another film in the same year, probably playing a similar character.
Fine. You can be nominated for the same for.
You can. I mean, I'd have to do some research there as to see how often that has happened being nominated in the same year.
They don't operate like that, do they?
So maybe understandable that he didn't get it.
But so Josh Brolin was nowhere.
No, he wasn't nominated. Not for Academy Awards. I don't think I saw.
Well, the film bros would have you believe that Tommy Lee Jones is the lead character in this film. So.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a fair amount of screen time. There's obviously a large portion of the film that is from his perspective and following him. So he did win the Oscar. Did he win the Oscar? No, nominated for In the Valley of Ella.
Yeah, Ella.
Yeah.
That's one of the
I think
films
I've seen.
I'm citing, by the way, for his same performance. Oh, you have seen it? He just does this.
Well, I think I have seen it, but I don't actually remember it.
Well, no, so you remember it perfectly. Just think about this.
So maybe not quite the oversight that I first thought, but I thought he was excellent in this.
Because Daddy's got sad eyes.
Josh Brolin, I mean, he does have sad eyes. And Josh Brolin, who, as you will well be aware, played young Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black 3. And actually is also in the Valley of Ella. He was in everything, by the way.
He was very hot topic.
2007.
Yeah.
Like he was in a lot of films.
Yeah.
I think, did I write it down? No, I can't see it. But I thought Josh Brolin's Tash should maybe have been nominated. It was as soon as it came on screen, Josh Brolin's just wearing that tash.
Yeah.
He's a man that should have a tash at all times. Pro tash wearer.
I definitely agree that Josh Brolin's tash is more charismatic than Josh Brolin.
But I don't think he necessarily should be charismatic in this role as such, because he is essentially he's an everyman who has stumbled across this and is trying to make the best of an opportunity. Right? He's not he has some kick-ass moments, but he's not, he's not an action man. He's been to Nam, obviously. Sidebar though, did you know that he broke his shoulder 2 weeks before filming?
No.
So he was very upset, obviously, that he would miss out being in a Coen Brothers film. And then obviously remembered that he gets shot in the shoulder very early on in the film, so it was okay.
This is going to work.
So I was wondering, What's the worst injury you've ever powered through?
Oh, I mean, I don't think I've powered through any injury. The worst injury I've probably had was spraining my ankle playing football.
Played on?
No, I couldn't walk, so it was quite a bad sprain.
Josh Brolin would have carried on.
Yeah, he would have carried on. I mean, I carried on to a degree, right?
Did anyone notice? It's like, oh, Carl's a little bit slower than usual.
No. This was I was handy back in the day, but I did play on to a degree. So it was only an indoor, a casual game, renting out a sports hall. Went over on my ankle maybe 20 minutes into the hour, which puts us down to uneven teams. That's no good. So I was like, well, I'll just go stand in goal. And I mean, literally just stand in goal. And I couldn't turn on the ankle. I couldn't put any lateral movement on the ankle. So I ended up stood sideways on, just walking backwards and forwards along the goal
like
line.
Like a crab?
Yeah, a bit like a crab. But really just like, not getting any, being utterly useless because I couldn't move and just resenting every goal that went in. And people just thinking, yeah, this is probably all right to carry on. Like, guys, I can't move here. And I think after about 20 minutes of that, I just sat down and went, no. So what you're saying is Josh Brolin, he would have, knowing goal for him, he would have just carried on.
Oh, he would have been just ploughing on.
Fuck it, I'll hop.
Yeah. Wouldn't care. No, similarly, I'm not a power through kind of guy. As you can speak to anyone, that's very much the case.
Not had
a blister, maybe. Maybe.
Where are we talking?
I mean, I get a lot of blisters on the toes. I'm very blistery. Obviously, the chronic blistering.
Your chronic herpes is kicking off again.
So yeah. Anyway, Josh Brolin, proper soldier. He's good. And so then obviously we get to Javier Bardem. Iconic performance. I mean, it is from the moment that he's introduced with the strangling of the policeman in the police station. You look at him and you go, yeah, psycho, badass, nailed it. Obviously the haircut is somewhat unique and menacing on its own. It is, yeah. There's a Coen Brothers part to it, but I mean, you do a silhouette of him as that character. You can tell straight away.
Yeah, listen. Quirk for quirk's sake, meh.
Yeah, Mickey a little.
But yeah, but if you, we've talked about this before. I just think if you think you can penetrate pop culture with something, of which his haircut is an attempt to do, and they've succeeded, they've created that iconic look. Power to you, It works for what they were going for, and he's great. Javier Bardem. Skyfall.
Yes.
What the fuck's going on there then? Because I remember, in the run up to Skyfall, being like, oh, Javier Bardem's the villain. Now, I try, just as a sidebar, I try not to consume too many reviews or anything like that prior to seeing a film.
You save that for afterwards, where you just spend hours scrolling through them.
Yeah. But so I didn't know too much. I just knew he was in it. But as the villain, very exciting. And then they get there and they take No Country for Old Men's absolute psychopath, cold-blooded killer, and they do that. What's going on there then?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, I'm sure we'll get on to Bond in some future ones, but I think they've struggled for villains. I think for
they've had plenty of good actors.
Yeah, exactly. But I think in terms of the characters that these in theory, great actors are playing, it's I don't know, just
terrible.
Give them a lot to do. I mean, the cast for No Country for Old Men is a bit of a sausage fest. There's not a lot of a female involvement in there besides Kelly MacDonald, who got a BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting. How?
I think she's very unremarkable.
I mean, she's very much a bit, but she doesn't have a lot to do.
No.
It's very much just a, doting wife character. Like,
if she didn't do different accents in different films, and
just
she's
was
done
plain
quite
Scottish.
A lot. Yeah, she's done quite a lot, hasn't she? I wouldn't remember half the film she's been in. I think she's absolutely fine, perfectly serviceable. I think she's a very unremarkable actor.
And then the only other sort of character cast that I wanted to call out was Garrett Dillahunt. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, as Wendell, the deputy, who I thought this would go in Coen Brothers' lovable idiot way. I thought it was going that way when he looked at him, because he kind of does a bit of a vacant expression on his face, all a bit wide-eyed and innocent. And I think in another Coen Brothers film, he would have just been a complete idiot rather than what he was actually, which is like a competent policeman in that. But I don't know, some of his interplay with Tommy Lee Jones' character, I found very amusing. I quite enjoyed it.
I had him down as the first note I took to discuss in the plot.
Interesting.
It is interesting, given what you've just said. Not to show my hand too much. And I was making notes as we went along. And as soon as this hit me, which is pretty early on, I was like, what? And I had to write that down. And then by the end of the film, I was like, yeah, what is going on there? So yeah, we will come back. We'll touch on him again.
This may be something I've completely overlooked. And then the last thing that I've got on the cast, and I don't know if you noticed this. I really hope you did, because otherwise this is going to reveal something horrendous for myself. The most distracting boy nipples I think I've ever seen on film.
Oh, you're talking about the kid at the end.
Kid at the end who gives him his shirt.
Yeah.
What's going on with the nipples?
Yeah. Did
you notice them?
Yeah.
You did notice them?
Yeah.
That's good.
He was just like, odd shape and sort of very bulbous.
Yeah. I found a kid without weird nipples for this. It's like, it feels like it detracted from what I was meant to be focusing on. I've no idea what happened after that.
Yeah, you didn't.
No idea what happened to the character of Javier Bardem's character.
Yeah, you didn't have to take your pants off.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I did notice that too.
I do feel better that you did notice something.
Don't rule it out, though, that
intentional.
Yeah.
They put out a casting call for a boy with weird nipples.
I don't think they'll put out a casting call, but I think they might have looked at him and, yeah, that looks weird, put him on there.
Yeah, or get the old suction cups on the nipples and just make them look weird for the character. Boy with weird nipples was in it.
Well, I've got some thoughts on the book as well.
You've read it,
but
you didn't read the book for this,
production and plot. You'll find out that you don't need to have read the book.
Well, no, you have read that you don't need to have read the book. If you've not read the book, have you read the book?
No.
Well, yeah,
you'll see what I mean.
I think I know what you mean. But anyway, you got anything else you want to say on the cast?
No, not on the cast. If you were going to recast it, though. Not necessarily because you think the person did a bad job, but who else is out there that you think, they could kill that role?
I honestly can't imagine the Javier Bardem character being recast. Like, that would be a tricky one.
I also have not recast Javier Bardem.
No. Kelly MacDonald, a mannequin would have been fine. That would have worked.
Yes. I also have not recast her, but you're quite right.
And I don't know, the Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, I feel like if you take Tommy Lee Jones out of this, you've changed that character completely. No one can do Tommy Lee Jones like Tommy Lee Jones can do Tommy Lee Jones.
I think somebody can do the weather-beaten sheriff better than Tommy Lee Jones.
Brian Cox.
No. I went for Kurt Russell. I think Kurt Russell would do a fantastic job in that role.
Kurt Russell. I was getting completely. You know where I was going? Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas. he's probably still alive.
Yeah, I was just like, what state was he in at that point? I'm not sure he'd be good. I was like, no, Kurt Russell, that's someone different. Yeah, fair enough.
You can do Michael Douglas, but he's really bad.
I don't think he would be. I think Michael Douglas or Kirk Douglas would work particularly well with this film.
No.
But that's not what he said, so, carry on.
Yeah, no, Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell, I think he'd be fantastic because I think he could do all the the weather-worn stuff that the part calls for, and I think you just breathe a bit more life into it as well.
But I don't think you want more life into it. I think that's the thing. You want that character to be like world weary, not worn down, but just so used to everything. Nothing really gets out of his stride. Like he sees people driving with a truckload of bodies flapping around, and he just goes and just follows them.
I've got a note on that
them
later
on
as
their way.
well. But we'll get into that. No, but I mean, I take your point, right? You can underplay things because that's what the role calls for, right? You can do nothing instead of doing something, and that is a better performance to serve that character. I think the way I would look at it in this case is doing nothing is not a simile for doing it well. Just because the role calls for a more subtle, nuanced performance, there are other ways to do that than just doing nothing. And with Tommy Lee Jones, like I said, I just think, well, he's just phoning it in again, like he has done in the last 5 films I've seen him in. And I
don't think that was Tommy Lee Jones phoning it in, though. I think that was Tommy Lee Jones dialed in to, albeit a character he can do and do very well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, we'll get
Kurt
into
Russell.
him again.
Any other recasting?
Oh yeah, I did.
Josh Brolin?
Say again.
Josh Brolin recast?
Yeah, I did. So Moss, the character of Moss. I quite like the idea of Ben Foster. Ben Foster,
the Watford goalkeeper.
No, can you imagine? Jesus Christ.
His GoPro would get in the way, wouldn't it?
No, Ben Foster was in 310 to Yuma. I mean, he's been in loads of things. He's been in a couple of other Western type films as well. But 310 to Yuma was the one that stood out in my mind. Going a bit more left field. I'm actually surprised he wasn't considered for this, given
Ben Foster around in 2007.
Yeah, 310 to Yuma came out the same year.
Did it?
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones in that?
No. Yeah, going a bit more left field, and I'm actually, given the Coen Brothers connection, surprised that he wasn't in the mix. George Clooney.
Well, I think they intentionally stayed away from Coen Brothers actors, didn't they? In this, there's some secondary actors that are in it that you recognise.
Yeah,
but I think they actively stayed away from it.
So George Clooney would have been great if the Coen Brothers weren't directing this, because if the Coen Brothers were directing this, they'd have made him play the fool like they always do in all of his films. Have you seen the film he's in called The American?
Yes.
You put that performance in this film, and he absolutely kills it. The problem is that the Coen Brothers would never have made him do that performance.
Just not imagining the same moustache on him, though. I don't think he would have done it quite as well.
He can hold a tash, that guy.
A proper handlebar, though. I don't know.
I don't know if I've ever seen him with a handlebar, to be fair. But he's got a thick bush going on.
What about his moustache?
Oh, I imagine so. I'm not as well versed with that.
Not as well, fairly well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think very different film with George Clooney.
Oh yeah, it was
obviously
left field, but again, along the lines of, I just think he breathed a bit more life into that role. I think he can do the introspective, the grit that's required, but I think he breathes a bit more life into it as well. Again, not if the Coen Brothers directed in there. So I did have a question for you, a bit of trivia. Like I said, I did my research. Do you know who was nearly cast as Moss? Got 2 names.
I don't. Coen Brothers actors?
Do you want to have a guess? 2007, so you're looking at, who's big around 2005, that sort of thing, 2006. Well, and when I say nearly cast, I mean offered the role, but turned it down.
Oh, interesting. No, I can't think. What name that one?
I would never have guessed this.
Okay.
Heath Ledger.
Interesting.
Offered it, newborn baby, turned it down. I don't think I could see that personally, but I've not watched a lot of stuff with Heath Ledger in it.
No, he hasn't done much recently. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Made his millions, though, hasn't he? He's just sat there sunning it up somewhere, probably.
Oh dear. And we've set the tone.
Yeah.
And the other one?
The other one auditioned for this role 5 times, so they really liked him.
Or they were just stringing him along.
They really liked him. And then when they eventually settled on Brolin, they gave him a different role in this film.
Oh, so is that the whoever I said it was?
Yeah,
Dillahunt.
Not the reason I had to talk about him later. We'll get onto that when we get into the production and plot. But yeah, so they liked him. Instead, they went to give him Wendell. How do you think he could have done the Moss role?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen him be, I think, a bit more serious, grizzled thing, but he was a Terminator in that, and that is the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I think he was a Terminator in that. I'm struggling to think of anything he's been in that's like
he was in Deadwood.
Serious. Yeah, I've not seen Deadwood. Interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
The other actor who similarly wears a tash well.
We're really tash chat.
I'm sorry, I can't get away from that character. And I'm going to come back to it because I'm going to have to.
If Tommy Lee Jones would have had a tash in this film, would I be talking to you now, or would you just simply be a puddle of your own effluence?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how he wears it, And if he did a,
are you saying that Tommy Lee Jones can't wear a tash?
I don't know. I'm sure he could. But I can't remember seeing it. So there is another actor. I just can't remember what his name is. We'll come back to it.
There's a few other actors that I'm sure you can't remember the names of.
This is going to happen.
What was the context for this?
A lot. The alternative. I thought of a good alternative.
Yeah. For Moss.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you some films that he's been in, and see if you can get there.
Yeah, I like this game.
So
I play this game all the time with the wife.
This is the game where if you say the right answer, I still might not say yes.
I play this game all the time with the wife.
Yeah. So, do you remember what's the Hitman? Based on the video game.
Yeah, I've not seen
the main character
really.
of that.
I've seen bits of it.
Do you remember? Do you know who was in that?
No, I couldn't tell you who played the lead. Go on, keep going.
Don't tell me.
Don't tell me.
Right, it's fine. It's fine. I'll tell you what else he's been in now that I can bring it up.
Right, so no red herrings now then.
Yeah. He was in Deadwood the movie. Interesting. What else has he been in? Right, there we go. Please hold.
I mean, Deadwood the movie narrows it down a bit because Deadwood the movie is sometime after they wrapped the TV series, and they'd killed a lot of characters off by then.
He was also the detective cop in Gone in 60 Seconds, the Nicolas Cage film. You remember that?
That's not a big part, though, is it?
Not a big part, but he's in it. He's in the TV series Justified. What's he been in? He's been in Fargo, the TV series. They've got Coen Brothers.
Timothy Olyphant.
Yeah, I thought Timothy Olyphant could have potentially been a Llewellyn Moss in this.
He could have. He was on my long list. He didn't quite make the.
He wears a tash. We shall move swiftly and smoothly on to the production. So I'm going to start off with the production, if that's all right, Carl. Don't mind.
As a mate, I won't stop you.
So first of all, I thought I was potentially deaf, or it was a lot more arty than I thought when I started rewatching this, because it was silent for the first 2 minutes before I realised I hadn't turned my soundbar on. Took me a while to realise until I saw that there was some dialogue going on the phone. I thought, not sure about this. It was just in silence, just scenes, shots of landscapes. I was like, a bit artier than I expected. And when I realised that the sound kicked in, but no score,
no soundtrack,
no score, no soundtrack. And you know what? I didn't really notice too much, which I think says a lot either about my ability to focus, my attention to detail, or the fact that actually it was the right choice that you can not do the score and it fit well with the film. So I thought that was an interesting choice, and for me, it obviously worked to a point because I didn't really notice. You had thoughts on the lack of score?
Well, I didn't notice it either until I read afterwards. And I think, generally speaking, you don't want to notice things because if you
Correct.
notice them, they're not potentially doing their job. They're supposed to just form this nice homogenous blob of production that then it's jumped on you and go, "This is great," and I can't work out why.
I do struggle with people that say like, "What was your favorite part of the film?" Oh, the score. You're just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching the picture-y part of it, to be honest, but whatever.
But ideally everything comes together, doesn't it? I didn't notice it either, but I do think on reflection, it was lacking for me. I think that's part of the reason I thought it was a bit of a drag, because I feel like a score in certain places might have just lent a bit more to something happening. Basically, right, and we'll come back to this. I'm going to touch on it anyway in this section. There's just not enough going on screen for me, and I wouldn't have called out the missing score at the time. Like I say, retrospectively, I think, oh yeah, that's why it was such a drag, or part of. But I agree, though. I think you don't want to be noticing these things, and I think they set out to get a specific look and feel. They definitely got that, and no score's part of that. So, fair play on that score. It just didn't work for me.
Sorry,
Fair play on that score. Yeah, it's very good.
I like it. Right, so the second thing, kind of linked to production. This book that the film is based on came out in 2005.
It's because it's not a book.
What is it then?
It's a screenplay.
Well, he just wrote the screenplay.
Yeah. So he wrote a screenplay.
So I'm going to say that is a quick turnaround from novel to film being released.
He wrote it before that. He wrote it as a screenplay, right? Because he wanted to get it made as a movie. Nobody was interested in it, so he changed it to be a book, and then it got picked up as a screenplay. And then he thought, oh, well, I've changed it to write it as a book now, so I'll release it. So the film was actually already in the machinations of being made by the time he released it as a book. Hence why I said earlier, you don't actually necessarily need to have read the book to know exactly what
this is
it's about, because it is a screenplay.
Yeah, and this is the funny thing that I thought when it won the Oscar for Best
Adapted
Screenplay, that I think they've self-admitted they didn't really do a lot.
No.
In terms of they've cut a little bit out.
Yeah, there are some differences.
But anyway, that I thought was interesting, less interesting now. You should have told me that before I did the introduction to the episode where I said based on the 2005 novel, not a novel.
No, well, it's an interesting discussion point though, and I did quite a deep dive on the book versus movie thing. So yeah, it's that the Oscar thing is funny, like you said, because actually they didn't adapt anything. It's also the reason why, and you'll find a lot of this. I did a lot of reading on Reddit as well, and I went down a couple of threads. So I came at it from the film fans comparing it to the book, and I also went down the book side and the author threads, who came to the film from that side of it. And the consensus is just how well it represents what's in the book, right? So sometimes you can get a film that's adapted from the book, and the director will just chop. It'll be
used as a source and nothing else, right?
They can take massive
broad
creative
from
direction. Well, that didn't really happen here, right? There's some stuff missing, which we'll get onto, I'm sure. But they've stuck really, really closely. So that is why, because it's not really a book, it is a screenplay. They've decided to go, well, we're just actually going to do that, but we'll just put our little quirks on top of it. And that's why everybody's so, of the opinion that, yeah, this is like the best adaptation from a book we've ever seen. So it's because it's not a book. So, yeah, see, I find it interesting anyway, because the whole book versus film discourse is always interesting. A lot of times it does depend on which one you came to first, as to which you prefer.
Yeah, 100%. I think more often than not, for me, you read a book, the film can never stand up to it. Just what you've built in your head and everything along those lines. I struggle to think of any films made from books where I've watched the film and going, well, that was. I've watched, and we might get onto this. I don't know how you feel about this one, but Dune. I watched the film, then read the book because I love the film so much, and couldn't wait for the part 2 to come out. So I had to find out how it
delayed,
went on.
doesn't it? Yeah. Nearly there.
Well, not to get too sidetracked, I found out that they hadn't even started production on part 2 after part 1, I was fuming. I was like, film it as a double header. Have some confidence in yourself. Anyway, enough of that. The one thing that we've gone so long into this already and not mentioned, and I think it's the real star of the film, is the cinematography. And we are rank amateurs, as we freely admit when it comes to this. If I'm using the term cinematography incorrectly when I talk about things look pretty on screen,
yes,
this is what I mean. It's Roger Deakins, who I think even as a casual film person, you've heard of Roger Deakins as a director of photography. He's been nommed a lot. You just shaking your head. No. Have you never heard of him? Okay, fine. Some people may have heard of him.
Rank amateurs, Simon. Rank
amateurs. Well, that's fine. But he's been nominated multiple times. He hadn't won for years. He has now won, probably for the wrong film, as they tend to do. The Academy Awards. Oh, he's been nominated 12 times. Let's give him an award for something else that doesn't deserve it for. But the cinematography, particularly the earlier parts of the film that are set in the desert, I was genuinely blown away by some of it. So some of the scenes, and this is not getting into plot. This is just the how beautiful it looked. So the initial sort of introduction to Llewellyn, where he's deer hunting like an animal, and shoots a deer, and the deer runs away. All the deers run away, and there's shadows of clouds moving in the opposite direction as they do that. It was just, it blew me away.
Yeah.
When he's being chased through the desert, and there's just lightning storms in the background, which I think were real. I don't know if they just got lucky with that or what. The way that the dog swim chase was framed and done, I thought was super cool. I genuinely loved that up until the dog got shot. Not the nicest of endings, but pretty cool.
Apparently, that's a rule in cinema. You don't shoot the dog.
You don't shoot the dog. No.
Yeah.
Broke the rule.
Sounds very Coen Brothers-y, doesn't it? To break the rules.
And it's the use of silhouettes and shadows at multiple points, particularly in the building of tension moments. What I found the building of tension moments, which you'll say you were asleep because it was so dull. Waiting before doors, waiting around doors.
Don't you think?
That was very assumptuous of me, wasn't it? And I think that's presumptuous because I have actually.
Yes, that's the joke. Yeah.
Oh.
Cinematography, do go on.
Well, we'll fix that in post. So yeah, the use of the silhouettes, I thought, was. Yeah. And then the one other scene that I just want to point out in terms of production, and I don't know if the way it was filmed, I've never really noticed it be done very often like this. So it's set in the trailer, in the bathroom, and he's sort of cleaning up his shoulder, and the camera's pointing at Llewellyn and the bathroom mirror, and then the Kelly MacDonald character is out of shot, but she's doing all her acting basically through the mirror, and then she moves away, and it still follows her. And I don't know if it's a normal shot type or anything. It seemed really unusual and quite smart how it was put together. And let's see, people who listen to this, if anyone ever listens to this, who actually knows stuff about films, we go, oh yeah, that's the Mackenheimer technique.
The Mackenheimer.
I don't know. Just said some words.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's something that stood out to me, and I thought it was really, really cool But yeah, that was my initial thoughts on the production. I've got thoughts on dialogue, but I'll let you say what you reckon.
I'm much more basic on the cinematography, but I really liked it. I was reading a review for Into the Wild, a film which I also thought the cinematography was excellent on, and someone was ranting on it, going, I really wish people understood the difference between good cinematography and just being in a pretty place, because Sean Penn has absolutely butchered this. And I was like, well, yeah, there probably is a difference, but I'm too dumb to appreciate it.
As I said,
yeah.
I mean, at the get-go,
yeah,
it looks pretty. Could I have done that?
Yeah, well,
I don't think so.
But the reason I mentioned that is because Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is 2 films before this, I think, for the Coen Brothers.
You say so?
Yeah, something like 3 years before. That was the first digitally imprinted colour palette in cinema. Or so goes the movie trivia. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that was a thing, right?
Couldn't even tell you what that means.
So basically, they film it, and rather than using, loads of lenses and filters on your cameras and lighting in a particular way, I'm sure they'll have done some of that as well.
They get crayon on the film.
My understanding of it is they digitally apply the colour palette in post to give it the feeling and vibe they want, right? My point is, you're talking about, well, is it just cinematography? Is it just, it looks nice on screen? I don't think you could level it as a criticism of the Coen Brothers to say they don't know what they do when it comes to cinematography. I feel like what they're doing is very deliberate. And so if you look at it and go, oh, it looks good on screen, fair play. I think, they've nailed it. I was the same. I thought it had quite a weird quality to it, in that they'd managed to give it like this surreal sort of retro feel, but yet it was still really striking.
Yeah.
Because I don't know when it's set exactly, like
1980.
80, yeah.
I did some maths,
supposed to be a bit retro.
There was a bit of maths in there. It was like, it's 23 years from, and it was 1957 or something. Yeah. I was like, set in 1980. Excellent, thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be a bit retro. What we're talking there, it's 25 years when they started filming it before, whatever. But yeah, it just gave it this really, really weird quality. Had this super modern production value on it, but yeah, you just it's kind of retro. It looks cool. Yeah. No, so I liked the cinematography as well.
So what don't you like, Carl?
Well, I'm not biting on that one. So I think, again, this comes back to, why do I think it's boring? And you're saying that this you're gripped by it and there's so much going on. I'll accept that. There are quite a few set pieces, let's call them, right? It's not like there's just nothing happening on the screen all the time. But one of the problems I had with what is happening on screen, I thought it was overly gory or brutal. And
any scenes springing to mind that you thought were?
Well, I mean, it's the first one straight away. So the strangling, the chains literally cutting into his neck and the blood spewing all over. Not long after that, we've got the cattle prod through the head, which we see in all its glory. It's not long after that you've got the first motel shoot up, and he goes in with his shotgun, and you see the whole guy's arm get blown apart. And that keeps cropping up again and again.
What about the wound?
Yeah, all of that. We get to see everything all the time. Now,
gritty and real, you might call that.
Well, it's not though, because it's some of it is like the guy, the shotgun, right? Moss gets shot later with the same shotgun, and we see him just picking bits of shell out of his back, right? The guy in the motel, his arm just disintegrates in front of your face. So they've made some decisions in certain...
A bit closer, though, wasn't he?
He wasn't that much closer. They've made some decisions on certain bits, quite a lot of bits, to go, we're going to go full-on brutal, as they do sometimes, right? And I'm not like saying, I'm squeamish about this, that, and the other. My thing with it is, it got boring really quick. You see that, and you've got nowhere to go from there, right? It's like, okay, yeah, he's just going to...
You feel they've escalated it up to the max.
So we had this discussion when I was telling you about having watched The Equalizer recently, right? The Equalizer 3, for some reason, has just gone, we are going to ramp up the graphic nature of the killings. And I don't know why, because it adds nothing. because after the third or fourth time you've seen him, put something through someone's neck, you're just going, and what? I've seen it. And I feel like you just shot your load, and then where do you go?
Enough talk about the boys' nipples, though.
And
Let's get back to the production.
And then you go onto the next because yes, he's done that again. When we come onto the what will change bit, I think there was a bit of a massive missed opportunity on that. So yeah, there's stuff going on, but the stuff that is going on, I'm just tired of really quickly. I'm just like, no. So yeah, a bit too. Just came across a bit gimmicky, to be honest.
Obviously, not in agreement with you, but I can see your point with the goriness in that you leave yourself nowhere to go. But
what's with the sock references?
with the sock references,
there's like 3 sock references in pretty quick succession.
Are they all Javier Bardem's character?
No.
Oh, because the I don't know. Maybe Tarantino was.
I was like, is this a
guest directing?
Or are they having a pop at Tarantino? We're just gonna talk about socks and see if he gets.
No, I mean the. I'm just thinking that there was a few. The couple that spring to mind was useful because the one with Javier Bardem character I'm thinking of, he takes it off to avoid getting blood on stuff, which is then useful for later at the end of the film when he is checking his shoes for blood to give you the giveaway that he's killed.
Yeah, he killed
the
her.
wife. Yeah. So there's
fair
an
enough.
aspect there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So
why do I need to know that Moss only wears white socks? On the cat I wear. All right, didn't ask, but neither did he.
Well, it's better than saying like, yeah, that's all right.
Why do we even like? I just don't get it. It was so deliberate. It was such a deliberate exchange. I'm like, what's that for then? Which I come back to again and again with the Coen Brothers, because most of the time, nothing. It was for nothing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you talk about the dialogue briefly there. So I think it's there's really limited dialogue, right? There's not a great deal there, but I think there are some absolutely great lines in there, and I chuckled a few times at just some of the things that were said, and I'm going to steal some of them. Like, where did you get that? The getting place. Definitely going to use that. You married into it? You married into it. When he's talking, the Javier Bardem character.
The gas station.
Yeah, do you live at the gas station? He finds out that you married into it.
You could put it like that, I suppose.
You married into it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to use that as well.
The way to put it.
The tent poles scene where he's after some tent poles. I just love that. It's like, need some tent poles. Oh, get a tent. What type of tent do we want? We can order it in. I want a tent. Which kind of tent do you want? The one with the longest poles.
With the most poles, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. It's just Freudian slip from you there.
Always the longest poles, thank you. Some of Tommy Lee Jones's lines in this as well were good. The use of a colossal goat fuck. Gonna use that. And I will point out that some of the dialogue was incomprehensible, but I kind of think that might be the point as well. Because in that part of the world, that's probably just a lot of it is just.
I don't mind funky sound design either. I've got to say, I don't mind it. I know you're a bit more. You get annoyed by that, but
I get annoyed by it when I feel like I've missed something that is actually important, and they've intentionally made it difficult for me.
Well, it depends whether that's deliberate or not.
Anyway,
yeah.
We'll get onto that in a future episode, I'm sure. And then the coin flipping thing. With when just the way that Javier Bardem says, call it. It's like, I wanted to call it. I was there like, heads, it's heads. Just say heads. Oh my God. So I thought some of the dialogue in there, limited, some of it incomprehensible, but some absolutely fantastic lines, and actually some, I don't know if it was dark humor, but like I was gently chuckling to myself at multiple points, and I thought,
how would you have coped if Sugar, as we'll call him?
Oh, Sugar. Yeah, Sugar, yeah.
had a moustache.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He would wear a moustache, actually.
Tell me to call it again.
He would, yeah, call it. Stop stroking my moustache. Just call it.
Yeah. Look, I'm just going to leave. If you don't stop, just call the coin. I'm going to leave. Yeah. No, it's interesting that you have giggled so much at that because I did not enjoy any of that. And I think it's because I was hung up on so much of it is just throwaway nonsense. And I'm hung up on this is just the Coen Brothers being quirky for the sake of it. And I didn't, so I really struggled. We got a section coming up, pick your best quote. And I really struggled with that because I'm like, none of it is really, like, it doesn't matter. I thought the script was goofy AF. I've got in my notes.
Goofy AF.
Goofy AF.
Thanks. Make it kid friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I've said fuck about 6 times already. But, oh well, it'll be fine. I don't know what the rules are for putting the explicit thing on, but
I see it as a badge of honour.
yeah,
Yeah.
as long as nobody says cunt, we'll be all right.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't do that.
So yeah, I just didn't like it because there wasn't a lot of it to go around, and then the bits they do, they use it up in silly stuff like telling me what colour socks he wears all the time. I mean, there's a bit where Sugar goes to shoot Stephen Root. Stephen Root is the guy who's dispatched Woody Harrelson's character.
Oh right, yeah, gotcha.
And he goes,
I'm terrible with character names, by the way. This is going to be a common
I'll give
thing.
you the actors' names there.
Yeah, actors' names fine with. When I've just seen a film and I've looked at it, you give me a character name, I'm just like,
yeah. He goes. You know, there are too many floors. It's like, what?
What? Sorry, what? Where's he from?
Yeah, I don't know. Where are we putting him with that? Do you think?
That's Scottish almost. It was a little
The
Highlands.
I've been out Shane and counted them. There's too many. He goes, there's too many floors, and the guy looks at him like, what? And I'm, yes, Stephen, I'm with you. What is he on about?
Yeah, I that was one of the points where I was just like,
and it's
yeah, because there's the suggestion from that is from what I got was like, okay, well, they're obviously hiding something. It's a dodgy thing, but somewhat redundant because he's obviously into drug money and doing all that. So it's a little bit like,
well, of course.
Yeah.
But no, but it's just another throwaway quirk that they just never come back to.
So that was a line that I thought, okay, this is an adapted screenplay.
Yeah.
Well, as I thought it was an adapted screenplay rather than a verbatim
just got
screenplay.
lost in the building.
No,
I've been riding that lift for half an hour now.
You know when we said about recasting, we should definitely have made Woody Harrelson's character Scottish.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that line either served a wider purpose in the novel book, longer screenplay.
Yeah,
as whatever you said. Because it was one of those which was just like, okay. But as I say, this is not a perfect film, Carl, which we'll come on to. So there are certain points I'm definitely willing to cede to you on. Cede to you? You'd like that, wouldn't you?
Steady on. Look, no, my problem with the script isn't that they have silly irreverent things in like that, and you've got to expect that with the Coen Brothers. My problem is that if that's all you have, it just annoys me. I don't find it funny and quirky. I'm like going, well, yes, that's nice, but will you please give me something to get a hold of here? Plot-wise or character development-wise, and that sort of, the dialogue wasn't doing any of that. It wasn't moving any sort of plot along. It wasn't developing any sort of plot. So yeah, it didn't land for me. I didn't like the script at all.
And we segue nicely onto the plot there you mentioned.
Well, just before we do that,
you've got more on the.
No, I'm just going to ask you a question. What would you change on the production side of it? What would you have liked to have seen more of? What could you have lived without?
good question. I don't know. There's too much that I would have changed from
Because
production.
we're the experts here. So
Yeah.
let's tell
quite
the
frankly,
Coen
I
Brothers what
think
they've done wrong.
the wider angle of the scene 34. I don't know. I don't think that there's nothing that screamed out to me. It was like, why have they done that from a production standpoint? Now there's a plot potential that there was an odd choice. I don't know if that falls in production or
we said
or
that
plot,
we overlapped, didn't we?
but the strangest choice, and as I say, it will lead on to plot, was you're with the Llewellyn character throughout. You're seeing it through his experiences from the get go, and the sheriff character as well, and then he dies off screen in seemingly a thing you don't see coming. The Mexicans haven't necessarily been the ones that have been. I mean, obviously, we're in his room, so on his tail to a degree. But it wasn't like, oh yeah, they're imminently there and it's happening, or you see him even spot the Mexicans or anything like. So that was an odd choice. Would I change it? Possibly. It feels like it sells the character a little bit short in that sense. So that's about the only thing that I thought. I certainly, as a professional filmmaker myself, I wouldn't have made that.
I mean,
that choice.
You have come at this film so down the line. You have just absolutely bought into everything that's on screen.
Yeah, that tends to be my go-to.
Yeah, which is so different to a lot of the stuff I read. Because what I was reading was saying he's not the main character at all. It is Tommy Lee Jones's character, and Coen Brothers getting quite a lot of praise for the idea of killing him off screen, because no one expects that sort of thing. And in fact, the Coen Brothers themselves said, "We just knew we wanted to be anti-Hollywood, especially with the ending." So people
then they won a Best Picture Oscar.
Yeah,
nice.
It's funny, isn't it? And I have my issues with that because I go, well, no, it's great because I don't like cliche either. But that can't be in lieu of substance. You have to still do something with what you do.
Yeah, you don't want it for the sake of. Always different for the sake of doing.
So you're just like, you're going, well, actually, yeah, it was weird, but kind of maybe a bit unsatisfactory. You're coming down from, well, what is purely on screen, and it's an interesting take compared to all the stuff I read. I mean, the thing I would have done is pretty simple from a production point of view. The overall approach, just dial down the gore and the brutality a bit, because I think there's a real missed opportunity as well to still hit in the same way. So the bit where he gets the catapult gun and he's pulled the motorist over.
Yeah,
that's the one. It's actually the only killing he does with that.
Yeah, it's the first straight to the forehead.
Yeah, and you see that in all its glory, right? And I just kind of think you could not show that. You could show him, just hold still, please. He rose up his head, and then you cut away, to just like waist height, and you just see the body drop. You know he's killed him, but you go, oh, you think possibly. Well, we don't know entirely what that thing is yet. Some people might know. You go, oh, that's he's killed it. That's weird. Oh, I wonder how he's done that. Where that pays off is when he then blows the lockout with the thing. And straight away, you're not just seeing him blow the lockout. You're then going, "Oh God, that must be how. Oh, what did that look like?"
That's true, actually, and it does come back later to
that pays off again
the
and again
because the autopsy, post-autopsy.
Because what you haven't seen then becomes something that you keep going back to, and it keeps hammering home just how brutal. And for me, something like that is much more effective now. I'm not a filmmaker; that's well established, right? And the Coen Brothers have won many awards and Oscars. But I just think to go the way they did and go pure gore and brutality gets so old so quickly. I just think, well, come on, you can achieve the same thing with less on that, and that's something I'd have liked to have.
I think that's a good suggestion. The details. I think it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have made the film worse doing it. Let's put it that way. Would it have improved it significantly? Not for me, but.
It also depends, right? Because some people would definitely love that stuff as well. Some people they would have seen that and they'd go, "Oh yes, I love that they showed that." And
I the hole in the head. I want
exactly.
It.
So, but yeah, for me, I'd have liked to see that turned down.
All right. So we've touched slightly on the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any more plotty things that you want to?
Well, yeah, something you said earlier, interesting. You liked Wendell. You thought he was going to be the idiot comic relief. And it annoyed me a lot, Wendell's character, because he was the idiot comic relief.
Oh, really?
But not at the start. So he's super sharp when at the crime scene, the first initial crime scene.
Knows his stuff.
Tommy Lee Jones, sad daddy, is staring out into the distance. And it's Wendell that's going around going, well, that's probably this. And, yeah, you look at these are bloated. This is happening here. Then these look like management. They had to go. He's the one that's super on it. Tommy Lee Jones is, pensive. Yeah, that's probably it. All this stuff. And then...
Yeah, I took that as like, yeah, he's already figured this out just walking through it. He's just...
Maybe so. But in isolation, Wendell, super sharp there. And then he's an absolute idiot for every scene after that. Everything he says... Tommy Lee Jones has got to come back going like, what, we're going to put a call out for someone's drank milk. We're looking for someone who's drank milk. And he has to spoon feed him every single thing, every scene afterwards. So I didn't get the take that he wasn't the comic relief at all. And it annoyed me that he was because he didn't start out that way. It's like they just seemingly changed him from one thing to the other. And it doesn't surprise me that they were looking at him for Moss as a lead, because one of the criticisms I'd read around the people who really liked the book said that in the book Moss comes across as really, really sharp, and they make him a bit of a dummy. He makes a few silly mistakes in the film and they dumb him down a bit. I was like, it doesn't surprise me, because I look at what they've done with Wendell and they've made him a dummy, and no surprise they thought, yeah, he could be our dummy for Moss. He could play that kind of like, he's not full on bumbling, but I don't think he does come across like the sharpest tool in the shed, Moss's character. So I thought it was an odd sort of decision to have him so sharp at the beginning and then turn him into an idiot.
So I think he comes across as a well-trained detective, but is a innocent, wide-eyed, seeing all this sort of thing for the first time, going through the procedure. So he's very much like, go and buy the book, gotta do it. And the point I made about him, I think in another Coen Brothers film, he would have been way more
Brad Pitt.
That exactly, like it's just like a complete doofus, and obviously, which I don't think he was, because there are moments where he obviously knows his stuff. He's doing it. There is still comic relief in there, and the way he plays off the Tommy Lee Jones character is definitely providing some comic relief. Of there, and allows that character to give his world-weary, experienced cop lines and throwaway comments that kind of put the trainee deputy sheriff, whoever you want to call him, kind of in his place.
Well, that's fair enough.
Cool.
So I have two then, trying to move away from sort of like nitpicking, although this one is got a little bit of that, and I have two major problems that you can help me understand, and it really is because I don't understand them.
Okay.
I don't understand the overall plot, right? Who does Sugar work for? It was probably there and I just missed it. Because he goes, and I assumed he was working for Stephen Root with the floor missing, but then he goes and kills him.
Because he wanted... That's a good point. I feel like I understood this at the time. So he was hired by one side, not the Mexicans.
Yeah.
So it would have been, that.
And there is only the two
character.
sides at play here, isn't there?
Yeah. So he was hired by them, but then he'd hired someone else. So
then I come back to
recover it.
My secondary,
because he was a psycho, and so he wants him to get the job done, but he wants him to...
So what was the point with Carson? Carson is Woody Harrelson's character's name.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're hiring him because they think Sugar is out of control. But then, and this is, I suppose, more of a creative decision than just pure plot, Carson is like parachuted in as seemingly this uber competent, confident figure, and he's dead within a couple of scenes. He's not competent at all. He's an idiot. What was the point of him?
I haven't got much. I haven't got much of a response. It is a surprising turn, I think, when he's bested by him so quickly, when he essentially returns to the scene of of his last crime,
Yeah.
and essentially he just sneaks up behind him. He's just like, "Gotcha."
Carson tells Moss when he tracks him down in the hospital, you can't bargain with this guy.
Mm.
And then the first thing Carson does when confronted with Trigger is try to bargain with him. And it's like, so he confused me, his introduction, because I was like, all right, they're trying to rein him in. And then he was rubbish. And I was like, well, what's going on there? And then obviously Sugar then goes back and is like, all right, yeah, so, but are they on the same side?
Because he says you should only have hired one, or there's a line he says was
yeah,
basically
you
like,
pick the right tool, not you don't need more tools or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah. No, but that's in response to them going, he gave the Mexicans a tracker. He said he gave the Mexicans a tracker.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So this is where I sort of got lost with it all. Like I thought I knew which way it was going, and then I'm like thinking about the little bit of plot they put on screen. And I'm going, does this make sense? And like genuinely, I'm
Unless
like,
he's freestyling.
I'm still not.
Sugar. Maybe he's freestyling. He's been previously employed. He's got whiff of this thing, and he's off doing his own thing. I don't know. It's a good question. It's not one that I thought at the time, but yeah, it's a little bit confusing.
I just generally didn't know. So I'm still, like I say, I've watched this 3 times. I'm still not 100% clear on the actual plot. The other thing, the more overarching thing, which you've already said you haven't watched it this way, is the allegory thing. I didn't know it was supposed to be allegorical.
No.
So it's supposed to be about, fate, which is Sugar's character. That's why he's so...
I have no time for this sort of stuff.
Right.
By the way.
Moss is just trying to get along and get a leg up and, all the rest of it, and how decisions can change your path massively.
It's the coin flipping?
Well, that's the fate side of it,
yeah.
Right, I guess, yeah. And then, what's his... Tommy Lee Jones's character, Bell. He's the main character because this is all through the lens of him and his journey that he's come on. Which is why they can kill Moss off and they leave it with his reflections. But also, I'm with you, feels completely out of step, that last bit. It's just a bit like, so what's going on here?
It does feel it shifts from him being a supporting character to them being the lead. And that was the one bit, the last quarter or so, where it felt like, okay.
Yeah, so again, reading...
It felt a little bit jarring.
The book film references, the book side of people have said, well, yeah, that's because they cut out most of Bell's backstory. In the book, it goes into quite a bit, and some of Moss's as well, because he was Vietnam vet, Bell was World War II. It goes into quite a bit of that, and it explores his sort of bouts with cowardice a bit more as well. For the film, they chopped all of that out, and they've really flattened his character down, which comes back to my problem with the character's just been like really, really flat. It's not very well developed. But yet I'm watching this, I'm thinking, oh, I've missed all of that. That's why I don't enjoy it. You've missed all of that, but you do enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if there's ever a hidden meaning in something, I'm not going to see it. It needs to be out there in front of me and maybe explained a little bit for me to get that.
Interestingly, on the book versus film, it's universally accepted that it's a great adaptation, and that is because it's essentially a screenplay. A lot of the people not doing it down, but a little cooler on it, were from the book side of things, and not in the way you might expect, which is usually like, well, I've seen that it doesn't live up to the book. A lot of people are just like, it's just not a very good book. It's one of, is it McCormick or McCormack?
Cormac McCarthy.
Cormac McCarthy, yeah, or one of those.
Also did The Road.
Right, okay, yeah.
Cheery.
Is that DiCaprio, The Road?
No, Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen, that's it, yeah.
Very cheery. One to drink away your life to.
Yeah, a lot of the, not detractors, because like I was saying, they were still reasonably hot on it. It was just like, yeah, it's just one of his weaker novels. So they're a little bit cooler on it, but yeah, no. I just couldn't quite get on board with it because I didn't quite understand what little plot there was there. There wasn't
and now
enough,
neither do I. Thank you.
Well, there wasn't enough fleshing out of backstories and characters, and I know you're saying for you, Tommy Lee Jones, that's exactly what you wanted out of him. I wanted something more rounded out of him, and all of that would have been okay if perhaps the allegorical nature of it landed with me, which it didn't. So yeah, I couldn't get on with the plot, I have to say.
Okay, let's move on then to This Is Why You're Wrong. So essentially, this is our closing statement to finally convince the other person that they are wrong. I'm the one that likes this film. I'll lead off first as the what's that? The defense or the prosecution? I don't know. I get confused.
Either way,
which one
best
this
of luck
is
to
going
you,
to.
sir.
Yeah, the immovable object. I'll try and move this. This will be fun. So I'll keep it short and sweet. You've heard the evidence. For me, this is 3/4 of an absolute classic movie. I think, some different choices made in the last quarter would have really rounded it out for me. Beautifully shot, as I've said. The performances are great. The moustaches are wonderful. It's got the iconic bad guy. The poster, which you should get points for, is awesome as well, and one of my favorites. And so for me, it's a great film.
I've approached this in a way I needn't have, having had this discussion, because I think I could have told you why you're wrong by telling you why everybody else likes it. And I think I could say, well, they like it this way. You're wrong because you don't understand that. But
I like it in the wrong way.
Yeah, you like it. But you
I've
like
been
it
told
in the
this
wrong
many
way.
times.
But anyway, so I am increasingly cool on the Coen Brothers as I get older, which is a shame because when I was a young adult, I loved the Coen Brothers because they seemed like these cool films that my dad wouldn't watch.
Yeah.
They were definitely for grown-ups, but my dad wouldn't watch them. They were cool. And now as I am a dad, and I am getting older and grumpier, I watch them and I take off those rose-tinted glasses and I go, but this is shit. Right? So I'm cooling on them in general, it has to be said, which is a shame. I almost didn't rewatch The Big Lebowski. Sadly, I think, as with so much of their stuff, it smacks of being different first, with the substance second. Now, you've obviously found some enjoyment in the substance of what they have put on screen. I just don't think that there's enough up there for me. So they've taken the screenplay, and I think they've gone, we want to make a quirky thriller, and the source material is this gritty, ambitious with wide meaning film. We can do both. How great would that be? I don't think they got much beyond the quirky thriller. Now, you like the quirky thriller bit.
I do.
I got bored of it. I think that, as I said, the gore was too much. The quirky dialogue would have been fine if they'd have given me some character development or a better plot that I could follow. Because there are some good scenes and it does look great. And Bardem is absolutely fantastic in that role. But it's just not for me. And I stand by that. Ultimately, really, really basic take. I just found it boring, and I just couldn't get on to buying into, wow, this is so cool, like I probably could have done when I was 22 years old or something like that. So I suppose
We should ask the question,
yeah.
Carl. Have I moved your needle?
Well, I tell you this. I think that if we sat down on an evening with a beer and watched it together, I could probably really enjoy it, because I'm not watching it so intently. I'm not looking.
That is how I watch pretty much all films.
No, but with somebody, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I could probably get on with it a lot easier than when I've just sat down on my own watching it, trying to pay attention, and actually, for me, give it the attention it doesn't really deserve. I don't think that it's for me, so I can't, in all good conscience, say that you've made a great impact on the
Not
positioning
moved your
of my
needle.
No, get your hands off my needle, you filthy pervert. But I take on board a lot of what you've said. I wouldn't want to say that you're necessarily wrong in the points you've been making. It's just not for me at the end of the day. What about you, Simon? Has your needle quivered?
I mean, as I said, it's not a perfect film. There are definite points that you've raised in terms of the the ultimate gore and having nowhere to go with that. The fact that there's a part of the plotting that doesn't actually make much sense. But I watched this film in 2007. What was that? 17 years ago. I was about the age of man that you said.
Yeah.
I would have been that I was like, oh, I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
17 years later, I think I feel it pretty much exactly the same, which either means I've not developed as a person in any way, shape, or form in that time, or I'm forever young. Whichever way you want to look at it.
Doesn't like allegories, but he's forever young.
Yeah. So I think I'd say, when the needle just quivers a little bit, has maybe gone down a
made your needle
touch.
quiver, Simon?
You've made my needle quiver, not for the first time. So you've opened my eyes to a couple of things that I maybe didn't think of at the time, but I haven't. It hasn't changed my opinion. The fact that I like it, and that I may in another few years' time want to rewatch it.
And there's no trash talk, so you can take that away with you. That's safe.
No, yeah. There's no trash talk.
Yeah, try to say that quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go. There we have it.
A quivering needle.
A quivering needle and a rock solid.
Well, like I say, a couple of beers, watching it with a friend in a different frame of mind. Yeah, but no, ultimately, it's not for me.
Well, let's wrap things up with some. Well, what we've said is the data section, probably misnamed, but let's start off with.
I'm light on data at this point.
We're a bit light on data at the moment. We'll hopefully get more and more data. Let's start with your rating. What would you rate it on let's say a scale of out of 5?
Well, on my Letterboxd, I gave it 1.5, so I would have to stick with that. There are plenty of things I could have said were good about it, but I think when I look at where it sits in my big list of films, I'm comfortable at 1.5. What about your score, Simon?
It was a 4 out of 5 for me. I rated it on IMDb back in 2007, and it was an 8 out of 10.
Did you log it again when you rewatched it?
I did it on Letterboxd this time. Okay. And without looking at what the IMDb was, I'd kind of decided what it was. It was interesting to see what I had, and as I say,
you landed in the same.
on bang on the same area.
Yeah, forever young.
Yeah, forever young. As I said, it's won the 4 Oscars, as we've already mentioned. So what about? Let's talk about the best scene. What was your favourite scene of the film that you detested?
Well, no. Let's just very, very quickly touch on the scale. If you've got a scale out of 1 to 5, you do have a full scale there.
Yes.
So you have to use it. We can't fall into the trap of saying anything below a 4 is rubbish. I don't detest this film. It's 1.5. It's got a lot of. It's got left a lot to be desired, but I don't detest it. So best scene. I did think the film dragged. Now you could say that there was very intentional usage of that slow pace at times to build tension in some of the scenes.
The longest Coen Brothers film.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It felt like it.
Didn't. I was surprised when I read that because it genuinely didn't feel long.
Like
I've watched other Coen Brothers films that I have wanted to end. Please, please stop.
Well, we might get into that in a sec. And I think the tension does work well in some scenes. And I think when I first watched it, I might have benefited from that slow pace a bit more this time, knowing what happens. It does take a little thing away. But I like the motel showdown, the first one. I thought that was a good scene.
Motel show.
Yeah, the Del Rio, was it? So they've got that. It was a good scene. Plenty of tension as it ramps up, and was he going to get away and all that jazz. So yeah, that was my best scene. What about yours?
Apart from the nipples.
Apart from the nipples.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the dog chase, the Jaws style Finn appearing with just the dog head.
Pause.
just going along.
Yeah.
And then the front. My favourite part of that scene was just like he gets his gun out and he's going, well, this is obviously going to be useless. So he
Yeah.
like quickly like deconstructs it
yeah.
or blows in it, which is obviously fixes everything.
Yeah.
As you know, battery's dead, blow on him.
He's a vet.
He's a vet. He wouldn't have shot a dog as he was a vet. Oh, I see. You mean like a veteran?
No, you can handle a gun, Simon.
So he's not a very good vet.
Terrible.
Kills all his dogs.
You've overcooked that anesthetic, pal.
So yeah, that was probably the scene that struck. That was like, oh, that's a bit different. A swimming dog after you, and then a bit of a land chase. Clean your gun and shoot him. I enjoyed that. There's many others that I enjoyed as well. The more I'd say like the slasher style ones, which is like this unstoppable force that just keeps on trying to find him. I did enjoy that, the tension that created as well. Best quote.
Yeah, was a bit of a struggle, but I have got one. And it's not really because the line is anything special, but I loved his delivery of it, which is Sugar saying, "Now is not the time." When he's asking the attendant, "When do you close? What time do you close?" Now? Now is not the time.
You feel like you've used that. It's something that you would use.
Yeah, I think that's why it appealed. I thought, now isn't it? He's right. Now isn't the time.
Bang on. Mine's from that same scene, which is you married into it.
Married into it.
Yeah. I say to myself every day, "You married into it."
I am a.
But yeah, that's my favourite quote of that scene as well. Rewatchability, yeah. So I mean, I've said for me this scores middling on the rewatchability because there's enough in there in terms of the bit of dark humour there and the tension that I think with a bit of a break, a bit of a gap that I would appreciate again and would keep me coming back, but not straight away. But I think, you know, in talking a few years coming back to watch it, I would gladly watch it again.
Honestly, so you've taken this film at complete face value, bought into their every whimsy, right? Completely missed anything bigger. You've just lapped it all up like a good little boy.
Yeah.
And then when you said, "Do you want to watch it again?" You've gone, not right now.
Well, there's some bits of it that if I remembered all of it, you wouldn't have. I don't think you'd have the same tension. So I need to forget a little bit. I'm getting older now, Carl. It probably only takes 6 months that I wouldn't be able to remember.
You are a complicated, simple little man.
I mean, I think it's the simplicity is the source of all of the complication. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Very
what
good.
about you? Rewatchable?
No. I mean, I do make that caveat that I think, like you say, there's some
3 years'
cool
time.
scenes in it.
3 years' time, we'll meet with some beers.
Yeah, there's some cool scenes in it. We could probably sit down and have a laugh watching it together. I am not going to be rushing to watch this on my own, probably ever again. So I would have to say very not on that front.
Okay. And we've obviously talked about the cast. Josh Brolin is definitely in this film. Where do you think this sits in the Josh Brolin? I want to say pantheon. Is that right? Doesn't sound right.
I mean,
Pantheon?
It sounds a bit grandiose for someone like Josh Brolin. But yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, 50% of his films were in 2007.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he was in that year. American Gangster, In the Valley of Elah, Planet Terror, and Grindhouse, and this film in 1 year. I know he didn't make them all in 2007, but that's a lot of films.
I found this difficult because the couple of things I've seen with Brolin in recently I did not like. And I was tempted to say, well, at least I like W. W. But then I realised that, well, I'm giving him some credit that I don't really know if he deserves there because it's so long ago since I've seen it. George Bush was certainly a bit more of a character, so I assume that's going to free Brolin up a little bit. But I might rewatch that and go, my God, he sucked the life out of. So I think I arrived at the thing of the sad.
Do I have to name three?
Of saying I don't think I really like Josh Brolin that much, and any film I like that he's in it, he's probably only a bit part, or I like in spite of him. So I haven't really got a list, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there was two of my favourite films that he is in, but not necessarily he's the reason why I like these films, or is my favourite performance of him in those films. So,
Yeah.
Avengers: Infinity War, which I know you're not into
Not my bag.
your Marvel thing yet, and Dune, which is in again not a hugely major character, but he's in that, and I love that film to death. The three films that I put that I think are his three best with him in it. So I've got Everest, which I liked a lot more than I thought I would, and him in it as well. Very, very watchable. The man doesn't age either. He looks like exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's
he does.
crazy.
Yeah. What age was he in this? I bet he's
he's
younger
like 50,
than he actually
I want
looks.
to say he's like 53 now. So,
I get the impression he's looked 50 when he turned 20.
Yeah, we didn't exist before 2007.
And then just shot to stardom.
Yeah, he just came fully formed as Tommy Lee Jones' younger clone.
Yes.
Yeah. He was born in 1968. Do that maths.
No. Right. Okay. So your top three Brolin
56.
films.
56.
A good guess then.
There we go. Nearly 56. Just 55. Anyway. So yeah, the top three films were Everest, that he was in. This one, No Country for Old Men. And Milk. Have you seen Milk?
I have seen Milk a long time ago, though.
Saw it on a plane.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Probably.
Were you going to Mexico?
I was about to say, was this where we went on our honeymoon?
Yeah, when we went on our honeymoon, yeah.
There were two other people there as well, but
yeah. It was then, wasn't it?
I think probably, yeah.
Yeah, it must have been.
A quick check of the year of the Milk.
The
Milk
year?
came
Don't
out.
say the year, Christ.
No, I'm not going to say the year. I'll look.
Could you say the year? Could you recall it?
Of course I could.
It was 2013. The British and Irish Lions were on tour that year. That's how I remember.
Milk was... No, it wasn't then. No, so it wasn't on the way to our honeymoon. 2008.
Ah.
So might have been on the way to the West Coast for a West Coast holiday in California and places like that.
Nice.
Where did you go in 2008, Carl?
We went to the Dominican Republic in 2008. No, we didn't go in 2008.
Maybe you might have watched it in 2009.
Yeah.
It came out late 2008.
We didn't go to the Dominican Republic till 2010. Maybe just Spain then.
Wouldn't have had a film on a flight to Spain? Surely.
Tunisia.
Film on a flight to Tunisia?
Tunisia, there you go. That's where I watched it.
Well, there you go. We'll fact check that after the time, and we'll include that in our corrections section in the next episode. So yeah, Everest.
Yeah, you thought this episode was long.
Everest.
Wait until we have to jam in the corrections bit.
Yeah, we'll have a whole series of apologies to anyone.
Apologies, yeah.
What else have you got?
Well, so we've done quote character scene. I think the only thing left to do, you're talking about pantheons, Coen Brothers. Now, I haven't got a list for the Coen Brothers either, because I haven't watched enough of them recently, and the ones I have watched I've not liked. But I would say, for me, it would be quite low down in the Coen Brothers filmography if I were to rank them, because I think it asks a lot of the viewer. Not for you, obviously.
No. I just sit there with my mouth open and drool at the moustaches,
yes,
and I'm done.
Exactly. It asks a lot of the viewer, and it doesn't put enough on the screen to warrant me thinking about those wider things. And when I look at what is on the screen, I just didn't like it that much. So, yeah, I have to put it quite low down, unless you're impressed by quirkiness and over-the-top violence, Simon. Where does it fit in your ranking of Coen Brothers lore?
So I'm similar, right? So when I first started getting into films, a lot of my friends were very into Coen Brothers because kind of what you mentioned before. The adult films that proper adults don't really like and get on board with.
That's right.
But I kind of see this one as separate to their usual Coen Brothers-y thing. I don't think it's not quite in line with it, as we've kind of said a couple of times. So I think it sits slightly outside their more Coen Brothers-y ones. I've always been a bit of a secret, like, I don't really get.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get it. Some of the Coen Brothers stuff. I'm just like, I found some of them really, really boring to watch, and I've gone like, I know I should like this.
So you were actually more mature than me as a young adult.
Yeah, but I'd not developed since.
Yeah,
That's
there you go.
yeah. I peaked.
Yeah,
I peaked way too soon.
yeah. No, I think that's fair enough. And they're a bit of a sacred cow, aren't they? So it's difficult to have a conversation along those lines around them. But yeah, I get where you're coming from.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I
Good stuff.
think that's all we've got. So, you know, if we moved the needle for you, or even if we didn't, then you can get in touch with us by email at hello@mtnpod.com. That's hello@mtnpod.com, because that just sounded like MTN, which could have been anything. Our Instagram is also MTN Movie Pod. And we're also on Twitter or X or whatever it's called nowadays, Facebook, TikTok, plus whatever the kids are using that Carl signed us up to. And the details can be found in the show description wherever you are listening to us. So from me and from Carl, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.
And Carl, we should probably go and give some water to that dying guy we saw 12 hours ago. Hope he's doing okay. I'm sure nothing bad has happened.